St. Mary's General Hospital stood like a gleaming citadel amid the manicured lawns and upscale homes of Crestwood Heights. Its modern glass facade reflected dawn's first light, and the large parking lot was already filling with luxury sedans and white-coat-clad staff. Inside, the lobby's marble floors and cascading atrium waterfall suggested compassion joined to clinical excellence. But beneath the glossy veneer, a sterility reigned in more ways than one. Angela Peterson arrived before sunrise on her first day. She stepped from the rideshare into an antiseptic breeze and smoothed the crisp navy of her scrub jacket. New employees received a thorough orientation, but as she wound through the corridors toward human resources, the low hum of fluorescent bulbs and squeak of rolling gurneys seemed to underscore a single, chilling word: conform. Every step felt watched. Her orientation group included nurses assigned to ER, oncology, pediatrics, some fresh out of school, others veterans of half a dozen hospitals. Angela, with her master's credentials and 5 years of ICU experience, had assumed she would be welcomed. Instead, she noticed a few staff exchange quick glances as she entered the circle of seats. A murmur rose when the senior HR coordinator announced, "And this is Angela Peterson, our newest floor nurse." Someone coughed in response, and Angela gave a composed nod. She learned about schedules, charting software, and the peer mentoring program. But no one mentioned inclusion or diversity, not in the official handbook, not in the glossy training video. At the end, the coordinator feigned a bright smile. "That's all. Welcome aboard." Then they moved on as though Angela were already invisible. Her first shift on Ward C began at 6 a.m. White-coated doctors, crisp gowns, and surgical caps moved like phantoms past patient rooms. Some returned glances, curious, wary, but most averted their eyes. As Angela completed her rounds, greeting patients and checking vitals, she encountered Mr. Walter Johnson, a cranky retiree with pneumonia. His chart read, "Prefers a male nurse." When Angela approached, he bristled and sneered, "A black nurse? I'd rather die." She pressed her lips together, adjusted his pillow, and replied evenly, "I'll make sure you're comfortable, Mr. Johnson." She administered his meds and listened patiently as he grumbled about kids these days. That afternoon, Angela discovered the harsh hierarchy. Dr. Malcolm Greaves, the hospital's esteemed cardiologist, strode into a nurse's station barking orders and dismissing consultations. He barely deigned to glance at Angela when she offered an update on a cardiac patient. "Just file that," he commanded, gesturing dismissively. A fellow nurse rolled her eyes. "Don't mind him, he's old school." But Angela felt the sting. It was a reminder, respect here was minted only in certain pockets. 2 days passed in much the same way. Angela logged charts, soothed children's tears, and endured furtive judgment. Yet her competence shone. She streamlined the discharge process for a diabetic patient, prevented a medication error, and calmed a panicked mother at bedside. Even the seasoned night shift nurses nodded approvingly. On day 3, a fast-track ambulance brought in a VIP, Thomas Edwards, philanthropist and chairman of the hospital's board of trustees. Rumor said his contribution had saved the oncology wing from budget cuts. His name carried weight. Angela had read his biography before joining. He'd risen from modest beginnings, lost siblings to illness, and poured his fortune into healthcare reform. When the gurney entered room 412, Angela was on duty. Greaves barked at her, "Peterson, get his history. And make it quick." Edwards lay back, eyes sharp behind designer frames. Angela introduced herself with calm courtesy, "Good afternoon, Mr. Edwards. I'm Angela Peterson, your nurse today. May I ask about your medical history and any concerns you have?" He stared for a moment, as if weighing her voice. Then he answered thoughtfully. "No offense, Nurse Peterson, but I'm curious how you'll handle someone like me." His tone wasn't mocking, just probing. She met his gaze. "With empathy and precision, sir. My goal is the same for every patient." He studied her expression, then nodded approvingly. "I like your confidence. Let's see it in action. That afternoon, the hospital buzzed with gossip. A board member's arrival always triggered extra scrutiny. Angela heard whispers, "She's overstepping. Why is she talking to Mr. Edwards like an equal? Doesn't she know her place?" She kept her head down but felt the tension. Even Clara, the friendly ward clerk, warned her softly, "Just watch yourself around him. You don't want any trouble." Trouble, however, was exactly the spark she needed. Angela found an ally in Edwards. He requested her for follow-ups. As she opened his charts, he inquired about her career. "Tell me more about where you worked before." She shared details of the busy urban ICU where she'd saved lives during code blues, mentored new nurses, and spearheaded a successful patient safety initiative. His interest never seemed condescending, rather, sincere. In turn, he shared his vision, a hospital where every caregiver thrives, every patient feels seen. Meanwhile, the undercurrents among staff intensified. Angela passed groups of nurses clustered in the break room, furtive glances, cut-off conversations. One day she paused for coffee and overheard two nurses whispering. "Is she even qualified?" one whispered. "I asked for extra mentoring because of her," the other replied. "Who does she think she is?" Angela's heart pounded but she didn't retreat. Instead, she recited silently her mantra, competence over bias. A week in, an emergency call came from the OR, a code blue in progress room 3. A young father suffered complications during routine gallbladder removal. Greaves, who'd been scrubbed for backup, barked instructions but stumbled on the protocol. Angela, her hands steady and instincts sharp, stepped forward. "Dr. Greaves, with your permission, I'll establish the 4-line and set the defibrillator to 200 joules." She worked with practiced efficiency, setting up 4, synchronizing meds, coordinating with anesthesia and the OR tech. The team focused, and within minutes the patient's heart regained a stable rhythm. In the silence afterward, Greaves's dismissive tone vanished. He looked at her, grim-faced but grateful, then turned to his surgical team. "Ladies and gentlemen, outstanding work. Nurse Peterson, thank you." A ripple of respect spread. Even long-time nurses exhaled, eyes bright. Angela locked gazes with Mr. Edwards, who'd been observing through the one-way glass. He smiled and mouthed, "Nicely done." In that moment, her presence was undeniable. Yet this triumph only accelerated the staff's uneasy chatter. Why was Edwards favoring her? Did the hospital directors know? A sense of conspiracy coalesced around her. One afternoon, a vitals tray shattered at her cart. "Oops," said the head nurse, tapping a cane against a table. "Careless, Nurse Peterson." She shrugged and cleaned up, another deliberate humiliation. Thomas Edwards caught word of this incident. That evening, he sought Angela at the nurse station. The corridor was quiet except for the hush of night shift charts being updated. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Angela, ignore their jabs, but document them. This environment needs to change." His voice held steel beneath kindness. "Count on me." His support gave her new energy. She spoke to the head of human resources about bias-free policies, requesting clearer anti-discrimination training. She organized an informal lunchtime workshop on cultural competence, inviting a community leader to speak. A handful of nurses attended, some skeptical, others genuinely curious. The hospital chaplain offered the chapel for these gatherings, and soon the sessions became weekly. Then came a flashpoint. Care of a critical patient, an elderly woman post-stroke, was assigned to Angela on a weekend. Dr. Greaves was off duty. Angela set up the feeding tube, monitored the ICP readings, and prepared for a full assessment. Mid-morning, the patient's blood pressure spiked. Angela recognized early signs of hemorrhagic convulsion. She paged the neurologist, prepared CT requisitions, and stabilized the patient for transport. The woman's family arrived, tearful and anxious. Angela spoke with them in the quiet family room, explaining each step and offering reassurance. When the CT revealed a small bleed, neurosurgery intervened in time. The patient stabilized. Her grateful daughter embraced Angela. "I don't know how you stayed so calm," she sobbed. Within hours, whispers spread again. "She saved her life. I saw her work miracles. We need more people like her." But the tide was only beginning to turn. The following day, Mr. Edwards convened an urgent meeting with Dr. Greaves and the hospital administration. The boardroom's long mahogany table gleamed under crystal lights. Greaves arrived stiffly. Edwards opened the discussion. "We are at a crossroads. I've witnessed bias that jeopardizes our mission. Nurse Peterson's exceptional skills highlight a deficit. We must cultivate respect at every level." He exposed detailed staff surveys on workplace culture, anonymously gathered but impossible to ignore. The room fell silent as data confirmed widespread microaggressions and biased assignments. Dr. Greaves bristled, but even he could not refute the numbers. The CEO cleared her throat. "Effective immediately, we will implement a diversity and inclusion task force, mandatory training, and mentorship programs for all staff." Eyes flicked to Angela, now seated beside Edwards. She pressed her lips together, surprised to be invited. As the meeting adjourned, Greaves caught Angela alone and offered a curt nod. "I apologize for my behavior. You've earned my respect." Angela inclined her head, an acknowledgement. The divide had narrowed. That afternoon, the hospital's intranet announced the new task force, chaired by Mr. Edwards and supported by Angela, the chief nursing officer, and representatives from every department. Staff received invitations to sign up. The atmosphere, while cautious, already felt lighter. Angela paused in the corridor, watching a group of nurses file out from the chapel after a workshop. Some smiled and waved. A teenage orderly gave her a thumbs up. A security guard nodded as she passed. The machinery of medicine still pulsed, but now it carried warmth, a recognition that every caregiver's dignity mattered. The road ahead was long. But as Angela Peterson walked her evening rounds, checking 4 drips, comforting patients, charting each vital sign, she carried more than her charting tablet. She held the conviction that change begins with one voice unwavering against injustice. And at St. Mary's General Hospital, that voice was already echoing into every room. The morning after the board's decisive meeting, St. Mary's corridors seemed different, brighter, almost humming with possibility. A banner in the lobby announced the launch of the St. Mary's Inclusion and Excellence Initiative, complete with the new task force's logo, interlocking circles rising like petals. A small crowd of staff clustered around the bulletin, whispering excitedly. A sense of anticipation fluttered in the air, as though the hospital itself exhaled relief. Angela Peterson arrived early, wearing her navy scrubs and a lanyard bearing the task force insignia. Her first stop was the chapel-turned-workshop space, where she'd lead a session on unconscious bias. The pews were pushed aside to make room for folding chairs. A projector cast a bright light on the speaker's lectern. She found Thomas Edwards directing the group, clipboard in hand. "Good morning," he greeted her with a warm nod. "Ready to take the first lap?" Angela smiled, heart pounding with optimism and a touch of nerves. "Let's do it." Soon, nurses and aides trickled in, some curious veterans hoping for free coffee, a few skeptics, and a handful of enthusiastic newcomers. When the room filled, Angela stepped forward and tapped the microphone. The hush deepened like a held breath. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "This initiative isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's about creating a culture where every member of our team, and every patient, feels valued and respected. We've seen the power of collaboration when it flows from empathy. Today, we'll share stories, unpack hidden biases, and, most importantly, commit to actions that reinforce inclusion in every shift, every interaction." She guided the group through scenarios, misinterpreted remarks, overlooked contributions, assumptions about roles. Slowly, voices rose. "I didn't realize how I dismissed feedback from younger nurses. I've hesitated to ask a male colleague for help with female patient care. The air crackled with honest confession, a raw, necessary step toward change. Across the audience, Angela scanned faces once indifferent and now engaged. She caught Dr. Greaves's reflection in a polished pew arm. His eyes rested on her with what seemed like begrudging respect. When a hand shot up, a veteran nurse questioning how to apply theory to a 12-hour shift, Angela offered a practical tip: quick, respect checks at handoffs, one-sentence affirmations of competence, direct requests for insight. A murmur of approval rippled. The session ended with handshakes and smiles, and a new energy rippling into the hallways. That afternoon, Angela returned to her unit to find an invitation slip on her chart: join the Nursing Leadership Committee, first meeting tomorrow, 7 a.m., Conference Room B. Beneath, a post-it read, "We need your voice." Her pulse quickened. She tucked it into her pocket. The next day's committee meeting brought together nurse managers, charge nurses, and a handful of enthusiastic floor staff. The chief nursing officer, Linda Torres, presided. Thomas Edwards sat at the table's far end, a strong reminder of board-level support. "Welcome," Linda opened. "Our goal today: translate the inclusion initiative into measurable policies. Angela, would you lead us off?" All eyes turned to her. She swallowed and nodded. "I propose a tiered mentorship program," Angela began, laying out her plan. "Each new hire is paired with a senior mentor from a different background, different unit, different shift, different life experience. The goal: encourage cross-department understanding and ensure no one feels siloed." She passed out a simple flowchart illustrating the matching process. Mentors and ments meet monthly, with guided questions on communication styles, cultural needs, and career aspirations. We'll track participation and gather feedback quarterly. Nods rippled. Another manager chimed in: "We could integrate these sessions into mandatory continuing education hours." A pediatric nurse offered, "I can host a module on pediatric cultural sensitivities." Within 20 minutes, Angela's idea had woven itself through the agenda, expanded by colleagues eager to shape it. It was a moment she wouldn't soon forget. Meanwhile, not everyone cheered. Dr. Greaves, seated at the corner, cleared his throat when the committee considered reallocating weekend supervision duties to ensure equitable distribution. "These aren't administrative nurses," he argued. "They still need to prioritize patient care over extracurriculars." His tone dripped with condescension. Angela faced him calmly. "Dr. Greaves, we're integrating professional development into our patient care model. Growth and inclusion benefit patient outcomes. A supported staff delivers better care." She let the statement hang. Linda Torres leaned forward. "All in favor of piloting mentorship weekends as professional development time?" A chorus of ayes ended his objection. He bristled but fell silent. In the weeks that followed, the hospital's pulse quickened with new initiatives: team building, care huddles at the start of each shift, open forum meetings where support staff could voice concerns, and a redesigned employee lounge decorated with messages of welcome in 5 languages. Patient satisfaction scores ticked upward, and staff engagement surveys showed a 30% drop in reported incidents of bias or microaggression. Word traveled to the hospital's communications department, which produced a short video featuring Angela and Mr. Edwards discussing the initiative's impact. The clip played on lobby screens, serving as both inspiration and tacit warning to detractors. But transformation never travels in a straight line. One evening, a surge of patients during a winter influenza surge taxed the ER. Staffing shortages left Angela and 2 nurses scrambling to triage, set IVs, and handle code calls. Exhaustion blurred into distraction. In the midst of chaos, a new nurse fainted in the hallway, dehydrated. Angela caught her and steadied her before she hit the floor. Another patient's blood pressure crashed. Angela flipped into action, ordering fluids, coordinating with respiratory therapy, all while ensuring her teammate received water and rest. By midnight, the storm had passed, but Angela slumped in the nurse's lounge, legs tired, spine aching. A stack of unfiled charts lay on the table. She closed her eyes for a moment, willing her shoulders to unclench. A hand landed on her shoulder. She opened her eyes to see Dr. Greaves, visage soft in the lounge's dim light. "I saw everything," he said quietly. "You kept everyone from breaking. Not just with skill, you rallied them." He offered her a paper cup of tea. "I may never admit it publicly, but I owe you an apology. And my thanks." Angela took the tea, her throat tight. "Thank you, Dr. Greaves. That means a lot." In that instant, she realized how far she'd come, and how far the hospital had traveled with her leadership. Spring arrived with blooming azaleas along the hospital's entryway. A new plaque hung in the lobby, 2025 Excellence in Workplace Diversity Award, from the American Healthcare Quality Association. At the award ceremony, Angela and Thomas Edwards stood side by side. Edwards accepted the glass trophy with a gracious nod, then passed the microphone to Angela. "I never set out to change one hospital," she began, voice steady. "I came here to do my job. But in doing that job with integrity, I found a community ready to grow. Change isn't a delegation from the top, it's a collaboration from every level. When we respect each other's dignity, we heal bodies and cultures alike. Thank you for believing in what can happen when one voice stands up against complacency." Applause filled the hall, a symphony of affirmation. Within weeks, other regional hospitals reached out, seeking to replicate St. Mary's inclusion and excellence blueprint. Angela fielded calls from nursing directors and healthcare consultants. She traveled to conferences, sharing her story of resistance, resilience, and the power of allyship embodied by Thomas Edwards. Back at Crestwood Heights, the hospital's daily life moved forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Patients noticed the difference, a shift nurse offering extra reassurance, a tech pausing in the hall to ask a colleague if they were all right, a cleaner discovered in the break room sketching designs for a mural celebrating staff diversity. In every corridor, Angela spotted reminders of the journey that began with that first tense greeting, a black nurse. "I'd rather die," and the countless decisions that followed to respond with calm competence. One cool evening, after her final shift, Angela paused under the atrium waterfall, listening to the water's gentle cadence. She thought of Walter Johnson, who'd unexpectedly offered her a grateful handshake days after she'd treated him. She remembered Mr. Edwards's encouraging nod behind the one-way mirror. She recalled the two nurses who'd whispered doubts, now among her mentors in the task force. Each memory was a thread in the tapestry she'd helped weave. A young nurse approached hesitantly. "Nurse Peterson. I just wanted to say, thank you. Because of this initiative, I finally felt heard. I feel like I belong." Angela reached out, touching her elbow. "And your voice matters," she replied. "Keep raising it." The nurse smiled, newly empowered. As Angela walked down the now familiar corridor toward the exit, she passed Dr. Greaves at the nurse's station. He caught her eye and mouthed, "Well done." She nodded in return. The hospital had shed its chill and found its warmth, a place where care was more than medicine, where every act of kindness became a prescription for unity. At home that night, Angela sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She began outlining a training module, from exclusion to empowerment, to share with other health systems. She paused, reflecting on the road behind her. Then she typed the chapter title, "Change Begins with One Voice," and continued writing. In the silence of her apartment, Angela realized that her story had only just begun, an ever-unfolding testament to the strength found in defiance and the healing born of respect. At St. Mary's General Hospital, that lesson would echo for years to come. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories.